Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tom Baker Show. It's great to be back with you once again for another episode. My co host, Jacob Seelman, the editor of Steering Wheel Nation, will be joining us in just a moment. We have got a lot to talk about on this show. We are sitting in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. And Jacob, I'm just going to go ahead and bring you in. We're sitting in the Charlotte, North Carolina area under about a foot of snow, which is something that is rarely said in conjunction with we're sitting in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. But that's the situation we face here. We had a sleet storm last week, a heavy snowstorm this week. We're just walking in a winter wonderland in the South U.S. right now. It's pretty sad, really. I hope it melts really quick.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I'm not one for a whole ton of snow either. I'll just say that, but this is what we're left with. I also didn't know there was such a thing as a bomb cyclone. That is apparently what this
Oh,
storm was
yes.
called. That dropped all this, but we ended up I believe officially with 11.5 inches of snow right near my house, and
Yep, about the same for
like you
me.
said,
Yep.
about a foot. It was 11 inches in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Why that's important, we'll obviously explain in just a second. But no, this is one of those. It's a good thing most of it was dry powder storms because had it been wet snow, we'd have been talking about power being out and roads being even worse than they already were. Dear Kannapolis, why you had to have all sorts of drivers out to where there was 100-car pileup on the road the other day is beyond me. We need to keep pileups off racetracks and public roads, but if we're gonna have if we're going to have incidents, I would much rather them be on racetracks where there's a whole lot better safety equipment even than in passenger cars. And I'll just leave that at that.
Yes. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I took a broom and literally broomed my car off earlier. So we have
Yeah,
very
we did that
lightweight
here
snow,
too.
but it's snow nonetheless. It's you can clean it off with a southern snow blower. That would be a leaf blower for those of you uninitiated. But yeah, the roads are just they're going to be a mess. The side roads will be a mess for a week. But anyway, we got lots of racing to talk about. The interesting thing, though, is that the snow intersects with racing around these parts.
Yes, it does, and that is also very unfortunate. I mentioned the Winston Salem snow total a little bit ago. The reason that is important is because that is where Bowman Gray Stadium is located, which is where the NASCAR Clash was originally supposed to be held on Sunday, February 1st. Obviously, under 11 inches of snow, Tom, that did not happen, and the Clash got pushed back. Before I ask my opening question of the day here, I'm just going to ask you a different question because I feel like it. Are you
Uh-oh.
surprised that this actually happened? Are you surprised this actually happened the way the weather people predicted that it would, and we got hello snow?
No, I'm not surprised. There is one weatherman in this area named Brad Panovich who I absolutely swear by. Brad very rarely misses by much with these storms. And, Brad kept raising his boom meter up higher and higher. That would be bust versus boom. When the boom went to 8 inches, I knew we were in trouble. And we ended up with 11 and a half. So, Brad called this right about right here, and so yeah, it is hard to run a NASCAR race or any other race for that matter that doesn't involve snowmobiles in the kind of conditions
In
that
the
we're
snow.
facing right at
Yeah.
this very moment. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, opening question of the week that I will ask, since we are talking about a race that number one started in Daytona Beach, Florida, and more recently had been out in California. Do we need to get this thing out of North Carolina in February and away from Bowman Gray and back somewhere warmer?
Yes, we really do. We didn't need to bring it to North Carolina in the first place. For those who don't know the backstory, as Jacob said, the Busch Class started in 1979 at Daytona, and it was for the pole winners. It was designed as basically a bonus race. It was a little sprint race for the pole winners from the previous year. And then as we got along in years, NASCAR decided that they wanted more cars in this thing, so they started allowing more and more sort of well, you can get in if until pretty soon we had half the field in there, and it just changed the race completely. Well, then they decided, yeah, or more. Then they decided to take it and basically turn it into a made-for-TV dog and pony show out in the West Coast at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. And they did that for a few years. And the first one, it seemed like, was somewhat successful, and the next two weren't. So then they decided to keep the quarter-mile oval idea. Well, let's bring it to Bowman Gray in North Carolina. The problem is they forgot to look at the calendar and look at the average temperature for February in North Carolina. And now, granted, we don't always get a foot of snow in the North Carolina area, but February is a month where anything can happen, and it's right at the beginning of February at that. So the temperatures are just frigid right now, single digits, highs in the 20s, maybe very low 30s. Not exactly good conditions to run an outdoor race with fans. So I don't know what NASCAR ever thought they were doing by bringing it here. It was never a good idea. But yeah, I would hope that if you're going to keep running it, you have to take it back further south. And it should be back at Daytona. I mean, why don't we just build a half-mile track at Daytona? It's not like that couldn't happen. There's plenty of money to do it with. Or go to New Smyrna and have it as a sort of a prelim race to the World Series events that take place there. I mean, there's got to be a better solution than this, because as much as I love the novelty of it being at Bowman Gray, it's just not a good climate to hold racing in the beginning of February.
No, it's not. And I'll go back to something you said a minute ago. The exact reason why they brought it to North Carolina is specifically because of Bowman Gray and the history there, et cetera, et cetera. But you're right. The weather doesn't make sense. If you look at the average high and low temperatures for the Charlotte area, I'll use the Charlotte area because that's the base for the vast majority of the teams. 56 degrees is the average high in February. 36 degrees is the average low. That's not comfortable for race fans. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're watching snowmobile races, sled races, NASCAR races, IndyCar races, or lawnmower races. It's not comfortable and conducive to a great fan experience. It's just not. You're right. We either need to go back south with it or go back west with it. Of course, then if you go back west with it, you ask yourself, okay, where are we going to go with it? But that's another discussion for another show, because I guarantee you I wouldn't have enough time on this show to ponder that question. That being said, you also brought something else in your opening monologue that I want to ask you about a little bit deeper, and mentioned the fact that this race used to be a pole winners exclusive. It used to be a showcase of all, as NASCAR originally put it in 79, the fastest guys in the sport, because these were all the guys that won the poles. They were the fastest guys in qualifying and had the most speed of anybody over the previous year. Then, as you said, this had to become a made-for-TV spectacle, and one year we had like the top 25 in points, and another year we had the 16 playoff drivers plus past champions and past Clash winners, and et cetera, et cetera. I could go on all day about that. the plot here, Tom? Do we need to just completely reboot the Clash because now it's not now there's not even the qualifications of you have to do anything special. It's just all your full-timers that are going to be in attendance, your charter cars, et cetera, and you qualify and you run heat races and a last chance race and then you race. And to me, that's not nearly as special as anything that we had in the beginning or even in the past during the early days of when it was called the Bud Shootout, which it was still pretty decent in that era.
Well, I mean, look, we have lost the plot, and we've created a new plot, which is that TV is now heavily influencing what happens in the sport and how the races are run and all of that. And this is now a made for TV race. That's all it is. It's meaningless other than that. There's no points. It doesn't have any bearing on the season. It's just a made for TV exhibition, is basically what it is. I also find it interesting that we found out during the court trial that, certain high-ranking folks in NASCAR wanted the wanted SRX gone. So what happens when NASCAR brings the dog and pony show to Bowman Gray? We get Burt Myers in the field. We get Brown in the field. Okay. Again, what was SRX about? It was a series that had a bunch of, retired drivers from various series. And then, of course, it became another NASCAR series. Then it was gone. But, and then you had local drivers the first year or two. NASCAR blatantly stole that idea and found an excuse for Burt Myers to be able to, both Myers and Brown to be able to, be in the field, okay, just to create some reason for the locals to be even more excited, right? You've got to manufacture that through an SRX-like move, which, whatever. I mean, it's fine with me, but I just, again, half the field makes it. It's just another expense for the teams for really no gain, to be honest. And I think they should just get rid of it, but that's not going to happen because, again, TV dictates so much of what goes on in our sport now, not just NASCAR, but IndyCar and every other form of sport that's on major TV. But to me, it's just a meaningless exercise. And I don't even think it's all that exciting, to be quite honest.
Well, it was when it was at Daytona because at least you had the draft
but it isn't now.
Make it interesting. But no, good grief, it's not now. And I know I know the other thought they had by moving it to Bowman Gray was they would hope it would get the short track pushing and shoving and people moving and shaking and dumping each other. And unfortunately, the short track package is almost as bad as the road course package in the next Gen 7 car. So unfortunately, we have what we have, and we're not getting rid of it because it's something, if you go back to the beginning of the charter deal in 2016, the Clash is an event much like the other 36 points races that is in the charter agreement, so they're contractually obligated to run it, good, bad, or indifferent, which is really, I'll just call a spade, unfortunate, because at this point, as I said a few minutes ago, we've lost the plot. It feels pointless, and I would be fine personally if we're not going to move it back to Daytona and we're not going to go back to having a full Daytona Speed Weeks, which will never happen anymore because of the timing of the Super Bowl. You don't have the you don't have the kind of build up, the kind of time to be able to build up now in the current environment because the NFL's had to keep extending and extending and extending and extending their season. You don't have the kind of time available to you to build it up like you used to at Daytona, unfortunately. So we got what we got, and it's unfortunate because I feel like, Tom, we just, like you said, this is an exercise in futility at this point. And I'll watch these exhibition races, whether it's the Clash, the All-Star race. We still watch because it's still race cars and we still enjoy them, but it just it just is not what it could be, and it's certainly not what it has been in the past.
Not at all. And by the way, I don't feel the way you do, and maybe other people do about, well, NASCAR can't have a full speed weeks or can't do this or that because of the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is football. The Super Bowl also starts at like 6 in the evening. So there are many ways that NASCAR could still do their deal. They could still run it on the same day as the Super Bowl, for that matter. Now, when the Super Bowl was on Fox, maybe then Daytona's got to go, to FS1 or something. But who says that Daytona can't run on a Saturday? I'm sorry, but I'm not married to the idea that we can adjust things around and run the 500 on a Saturday. I don't think we need to shorten speed weeks and make it less of a fan experience than it used to be, just because we're afraid of the Super Bowl that starts at like 6 o'clock on a Sunday. Run the thing on a Saturday if you got it, and just move everything else up a day. I just don't see why we are so afraid of the Super Bowl that we have to keep dodging it and shortening our own major event in order to accommodate it, because we don't think somehow that we can still hold a race and have everybody have time to turn over for the Super Bowl. I would think it would be a doubleheader that Fox would love.
Because television ratings matter, and unfortunately at the end of the day, the Super Bowl is still the number one televised sporting event in the country.
I didn't say you go up against it, Jacob.
I
said
I
run
didn't
it the day before. Run Daytona on a Saturday. Who cares?
Tom, that sounds too much like logic. Beware of how far you go.
I do have to remember what we're talking about here. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm sorry. I should use logic when I'm talking about NASCAR. Moving along.
On that note, yes, digressing to the other form of racing that's happening recently and in the coming weeks, and that's dirt, which is always my favorite story to talk about. Unfortunately, we're talking about more cold, more nastiness, and more weather affecting race cars. We got through 2 nights of ASCS racing at the Federated Auto Parts Dirt Car Nationals. And then Florida even got into a cold funk, and it got down into the 20s, and Floridians don't even know how to deal with that. Trust me, I know. I've asked a few.
No, their blood's way too thin for that.
Yeah. More importantly, sprint cars with wings do not do well in 35 and 40 mile an hour wind gusts. And we pushed a couple of sprint cars up into the wall, up into the fence, upside down, to the point that we had to stop night number 3 due to driver and fan safety concerns, because we ended up starting to crash modifieds even because of the wind gusts, which was shocking to me. I mean, I've watched sprint cars with wings and how the aerodynamics of high wind gusts affect those. It's not pretty. I had never seen it in a modified before that third night of ASCS racing. We've seen it before. World of Outlaws and High Limit both last year had to cancel events or stop them midstream due to wind gusts. 81 Speedway in Kansas comes to mind last year. But I'm curious, Tom, as somebody who has not necessarily been as deeply embedded in the sprint car bubble as I have, but you certainly care about grassroots open wheel racing the same as I do. What did you think when all this was happening live? Because I know when I realized what was happening on the sprint car side, I said to myself, oh boy. And then when it started crashing modifieds, I said, oh, this is really not good.
Well, it's a strange phenomenon, right? You and I both been to a lot of racetracks over the course of our careers and our lives as fans and employees or media or whatever, and been in a lot of different weather conditions. I've never ever heard of a race that was stopped due to wind, right? And so it took my breath away a little bit just to hear that, wait, what, wind? But then when you think about it, when you got gusts up to 40 miles an hour and you're trying to go race on a dirt track, you got sprint cars with wings and all of that. The modified part was a little zany, but the worst part of that is couldn't run on Sunday. So now all of a sudden, they're running a double show on Monday. And that's kind of eating into this coming week a little bit where, the transition happens from the ASCS to the World of Outlaws. So yeah, crazy times for sure from the weather all over the East Coast and the South and Southeast of the country. And hopefully we get it all out of here and warm things up in Florida for the better half of Speed Weeks and the run up to Daytona. Yeah, crazy. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about sunshine on the Tom Baker Show. Don't miss that.
For race fans across the United States, getinthestands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to getinthestands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. Getinthestands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to getinthestands.com. Getinthestands.com, your racetrack directory.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
Welcome back to the show. And so far, we have talked about heavy snow and we've talked about lots of wind. Now, Jacob Seelman, we're going to talk about sunshine because while wind won one of the races, or at least to a point of postponing it for 2 days, sunshine won the other two at Volusia. And I think old Tyler Courtney's back from his injury now again. We can talk about the difference between ASCS and the Outlaws if you want to, but just in terms of being able to say that he is fully rebounded and fully back to being competitive in the sprint car, I'm thrilled to see this for Tyler Courtney.
I am too, and just to tie your thought, your little quip there into a bow, Sunshine won the weather and Sunshine won the first two ASCS races of the season.
That's
just
correct.
in different forms. I love this. And for those who maybe follow sprint car racing a little bit, but not necessarily a lot, Tyler Courtney has become an absolute fan favorite. His nickname, by the way, is Sunshine. His brother Taylor,
yes.
His brother Taylor's nickname is Moonshine. I don't have enough time to get into that story, but no, Tyler, after the injury that he suffered in that vicious crash at Eldora Speedway during Kings Royal Week last July, to be back like this. I mean, any race car driver, I don't care what you race, when you have an injury like Tyler had to sit out for 6 months at home, and then to come back and jump right into a major race week, I mean, there had to be some nerves. And Tyler will probably never admit this, but there were probably some doubts in the back of his mind too. And to put all that aside, and not just to win, Tom, the two races that he won, but I mean, he won both of them in absolute thrill show fashion. Both of his wins, the pass for the win came inside the final 5 laps. It's not like he just sat there and dominated. It had to come to him. But it came to him. It did well. He's the 10th driver. By the way, I'll slip my Seelman stat of the weekend now. Tyler Courtney is the 10th driver in the 34-year history of the ASCS to win back-to-back races to open the season, as well as the 6th time it's happened in the last 10 years. Names like Danny Jennings, Rico Abreu, six-time ASCS champ Sam Haferteep, Justin Peck did it last year. This is a big deal and impressive for Tyler to do that. What do you think it means to have Sunshine back in the seat full-time and already competitive the way he is?
Oh, I think that honestly, for Tyler, I think this is a really big deal because anytime you're out with an injury, I mean, even if it's not an injury that is kind of looked at as a life-threatening or life-changing injury, you just never know how quickly you're going to bounce back. And Tyler's only been cleared now since about January, the beginning of January, I think. So, less than a month, I'd say, and he comes and just rocks it. So yeah, I think it means a lot for him, and I think it means a lot for the series. I think ASCS has put on great shows down there, and people can talk about the depth of competition if they want, but the racing has been outstanding. You're right, Tyler hasn't shoot into either one. He's had to bust his tail to win those races, and so far he's doing a great job.
I'll make 2 points. New dirt surface at Volusia, I think, has been an absolute winner so far, and that Tyler Courtney, I believe, will be a contender for the high limit sprint car championship, which he's running for full time this year, to potentially dethrone Rico Abreu. With that, I'll transition over now back to stock car land and give a little setup to the Daytona 500 coming up in little over a week. William Byron is going for his third straight Daytona 500 victory. And Tom, no driver or car owner, Hendrick Motorsports is William Byron's owner, no driver or car owner has ever won the event in 3 consecutive years. So Byron and Hendrick Motorsports going for 2 pieces of history there. That's obviously one big storyline. And even younger gun than Byron in Connor Zilisch is making his anticipated Daytona 500 debut off his 10-win season in the what's now the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series a year ago. That'll be something to watch with Trackhouse over the course of the week. But 2 things I think are the big deal coming into this race. Number one, feel free to rant if you wish. 2-time 500 winner and 7-time Cup champ Jimmy Johnson, we know, will race via the open exemption provisional. There's been a lot of controversy. You're on the side of controversy. Let's hear it.
Okay, so let's imagine there's a world, in which a 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion requests to use a provisional, which is the NASCAR Daytona 500 equivalent of the get out of jail free card. Okay, it's a guaranteed starting spot to make the 500. Why, Jimmy? Are you scared you're going to be too slow? I mean, NASCAR wouldn't let Mike Wallace race a year or 2 ago. Are you telling me that you're going to be as slow as Mike Wallace might have been? Like, come on. Really? This is stupid. That provisional was supposed to be for someone from outside of NASCAR land as an excuse to draw fans who wouldn't ordinarily watch the 500, which is how we got Elio Castroneves last year. And now now they're giving it to a 7-time champion. This is sort of the old Richard Petty champions provisional, because Richard actually was too slow to make half the races at the end of his career. No offense to the king, but he just hung around too long. But I mean, golly, Bill, this is awful. I mean, no, I don't like it at all. But you watch, he'll get in and he'll probably win the thing now.
Well, oh, by the way, this is the same Jimmy Johnson who finished 3rd in last year's Daytona 500. Let's remember. If we think he's going to be too slow, we got bigger problems here.
NASCAR, what are you doing?
The other big point, by the way, Denny Hamlin back to chase his 4th 500 victory, and I got to believe he's going to be so motivated for this one, Tom, between his dad passing and his mom's injuries in the house fire that happened over the offseason. That's going to be an emotional one all week, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even begin to be able to imagine what Denny is thinking about. What's going through his mind, just the weight of all of it, really. And then you've got to kind of put it all on the back burner and get into your car and go back to work. I think Denny's going to have some extra motivation this season, and we've gone back to the chase format. So I think, I would watch the number 11 this year, because I think he's going to be driving with just a little bit of a chip on his shoulder.
Last thought here, or last topic on the 500 right now, Tom. We've had so much talk, particularly in the elimination era, of the 500 losing prestige, maybe not being what it once was, whether it's the draft package, fuel saving, the luck of avoiding the big one. But I feel like one of the big things was when you won this race, immediately everybody would talk about, oh, driver X is locked into the playoffs. Guess what? We don't have to worry about that anymore. Does that allow there to be more prestige and more focus back on, hey, you just won the Super Bowl of NASCAR racing?
Well, I don't think Daytona ever quite lost that much of its prestige. I think the biggest thing that the race itself has changed. It's a pack race. They all run in a pack. A lot of times they're saving fuel. It's basically almost a game of chance as to who wins the thing, because you're hoping to get through the race without getting in one of the big 20-car pileups. Yeah. But with that being said, I do think this makes it a little bit better because it's not just winning or in the playoffs. Right. I still think it's a big deal to win Daytona.
500.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to go so far as not only to say that I think it's still prestigious to win the 500, I'm going to tell you who I think's going to win the Daytona 500 this year. Are you ready?
Go for it.
Denny Hamlin.
Oh, you're living on my brain cell again, dude. Come on. Oh, you going to force me to pick somebody else because of that?
I'm really going on, we're not supposed to be biased, but doggone, I would cry if Denny wins this year after all he's been through. I just, I want to see Denny win the race, and it is a game of chance, but Denny's still done it multiple times. So yeah, Denny Hamlin wins another 500 and stops the whole Hendrick streak.
Yeah, I would love nothing more than to see that happen myself. Though that being said, I'm gonna stay in that camp and go one driver different, because I think it's another driver that really improved on his super speedway craft this year, and I think feels like he has more to prove despite how big a run he made last year at Joe Gibbs Racing. I say Chase Briscoe wins the 500.
Oh, I thought
badly as I want to.
You were going with Ty Gibbs.
No, I'm not that brave. I think Briscoe, though, after everything he did to, have his championship shot last year, I think year 2 is going to be even bigger. He won the pole last year. I say he wins the Harley J. Earl now.
Well, we both got as good a chance as anyone going in. So with that, we are going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll go into our last lap segment. Don't miss that. We've got a big announcement as part of it. We'll be back with that right after this.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Welcome back to the show. It is time now for our last lap segment. Jacob, this is where we go from moving efficiently through the various topics of the day to picking up the pace and wrapping it up into high gear.
Yes, absolutely. First bullet point I want to touch on. Apparently, all you need at Team Penske is a 7-month required leave of absence, and then suddenly you've paid your penance. Tim Cindric is back as Scott McLaughlin's strategist for 2026 in the IndyCar ranks. I don't know how I feel about this, Tom. I don't think I like it. No disrespect to Tim, but man, when as much big stuff as happened over there happened, like I don't like the feeling of being able to come back. And yes, he's in a lower position, but it's like not a whole lot changed. I don't know. Roger Penske was very heavy-handed last year when he handed down those firings, and this just feels like, now it's a slap on the wrist.
Well, that's what I mean, even last year, it's like, well, we had 3 scapegoats. He brought one of them back. This is when you get into that sort of corporate business kind of stuff. This stuff happens all the time. It's like you kind of just put him in a smaller office for the last 7 months and kept paying him, and then he brought him back. Look, and I'm a big fan of Tim Cindric in general. I don't think Tim, probably was the only one who, had anything to do with all that, but how do you not bring the others back and bring him back? It's just I don't think it's a good look for Penske, but Roger's got too much money to care. So that's just kind of how that is.
How did you feel, by the way, as a native New Yorker, seeing young Trevor Catalano win the TQ Gamblers Classic in Atlantic City? That battle he put on with Kyle Lick was amazing. Yeah, there were some crashes that there maybe shouldn't have been, but that kid has tried to find his footing in the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. And this, by far, short of a Tour Mod win, I felt like is the biggest win of his young career.
Well, it is. And Trevor, the Catalano family is a 3rd or 4th generation of racing. And they are a great bunch of people from the western part of New York State that race modifieds, late models, street stocks, all kinds of stuff, and TQs. And happy for him and hated it for Andy J, who just can't buy any luck. He did more airtime, at that show. And, one of these days he's gonna get back to winning TQ races. But it was a fun race for sure, and those indoor TQ races have got much more brutal. Everybody's more aggressive, and they're faster than they used to be too. So fun to watch, and congratulations to Trevor. That was really cool to see.
Yeah, a lot of fun for him. I just thought it was cool to see a very different winner than what we're used to. Ryan Flores's and Eric Rudolph's of the world in that building.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give the reins to you for a little bit, and then I can chime in as we go here. But as you alluded to off the top of the show, we're ending the show on a huge announcement out of the Steering Wheel Nation ecosystem that both of us are super excited about.
Yeah, we talked a few shows ago about the Inside Groove Pit Pass, which was the new fan community that we were going to be launching. We talked about the sim piece of that, which we're doing in conjunction with Jack Dowell Motorsports. We're doing a variety of things with the Pit Pass. That launched and is now up and running. It is a subscription community, and there are 3 basic subgroups of the sport that we're catering to: the Northeast racing audience, the open wheel racing audience, and the sim racing audience. We're designing the Pit Pass and Steering Wheel Nation in 2026 to be the digital grassroots home for open wheel racing in America. And we are really working hard. Jacob has done an outstanding job of covering the last few major open wheel indoor events. And then, of course, the the events so far at Volusia for Steering Wheel Nation, and there's going to be exclusive content in the Pit Pass that will live nowhere else except in the Pit Pass for the open wheel crowd. We're going to have a couple of sim leagues that we're going to do, and we're going to try and up the game with real coverage, media coverage of the sim events, and the winners of each of our sim events will appear on this show. The winner view will be presented after each one of our races. But this really is designed to elevate the conversation around open wheel racing and bring back the feel that track programs used to have. For those of you who would get a program at your local track or your local event, and some events still do have programs, you get a lot of driver features and a lot of behind the scenes content that is just not showing up anymore at the local track level on social media, because tracks don't have people to make it happen. So we are going to create a really tight-knit community connection once again. No algorithm in this. It is all racing and nothing but racing. And Jacob, you're going to head up the open wheel side of the content. I'll focus on Northeast and work with Jack Dowell on the sim. And we got Carol Husak and some other writers that are going to be doing more writing for us. So it's kind of a digital magazine, but it's always on, and it's 24/7, 365. And we're going to be able to have a lot of live stuff and just really have some fun with it.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this, and I'll kind of echo a few of the words that I put in the official PR that we announced the Pit Pass launch with. The time that I spent with the Sprint Car and Midget brand and working alongside Doug Ald, who founded Sprint Car and Midget magazine and was really the brains behind the beauty that was for the industry for so many years before his passing about 4 or 5 years ago now. I want to bring the spirit of what Sprint Car and Midget was back, because we've missed that. The industry has missed that, Tom. And the behind the scenes content, the getting to know the drivers content, just really the inside the ecosystem. That's what I want to bring to this. I'm really excited about it. Was able to, one of the launch features, focus on Darren Nida, Dan Binks, and their run through the alphabet soup with the Chili Bowl. Once you subscribe and get in, check that out. Had a lot of fun writing that one, and best wishes to Darren for his upcoming sprint car schedule later this season up in the upper Midwest and into Michigan.
Yeah. And, I'm super excited to be able to really dive back into the open wheel world again and really do it the way that you and I both think it should be done and used to be done. Just that sort of, all week long connection to the racing that we all love through, driver features, crew features, owner features, whatever it is, whatever the content is, being able to get drivers in and actually have live conversations that the fans can join in on. We're going to do a lot of different things with this. And so I didn't do this gratuitously. We did this with a lot of thought, months of planning. Same with the sim side. We're going to give a trophy to every winner. Lots of big stuff happening on that side. So $9.95 a month or $99 a year. And again, 24/7, 365, always on. Inside Groove pitpass.com. Inside Groove pitpass.com is the website, and we look forward to seeing you inside the community. And that's it for this show. steeringwheelnation.com for more great content, at the Wheel Nation on the social channels. Until next time, for Jacob Seelman, I'm Tom Baker. Thanks for listening. Have a great week, everyone.